And that is the moment we get. We rip her away. I wonder if she felt all of that and saw all of that in her own mind. And for her, it's learned helplessness, right? She thought she could stand up against him. They managed to do it, and the moment of victory, he just... And the mask might be the key. Okay, like a construct, right? And he took it for himself. Shape of a large room. Oh, very, very interesting. That would be like the hypocrisy of the hypocrisies, right? If he was actually somewhere else very safe. Brighten up everybody around her. Let's fucking go. Alright. Yeah, and I do wonder why they're so hollow, right? Are they actually somewhat constructs, or were they altered in some way? But he basically immortalized himself, which is insane. Fits perfectly, though. Yeah, that is an interesting thought, right? Oh, something awakened here. Maybe all of his memories. It's like a robot. she sure is. Oh, I wonder if Minya's gonna lead us to Prushka. Oh, she's gonna run after it. Of course it is. I wonder if we see another horrible thing here. Oh yeah, she smells Prushka there. And Nanachi was involved making these. And the guilt. Right. But Bondra doesn't feel the guilt. For him it's just a game, right? Or not a game, like more. His life's purpose, and nothing's gonna stand in his way.
命を響く石、確か白笛はそれから削り出すって。
ユアワースの原料は人間です。
Implying that a ritual on humans.
使用者にすべてを捧げる確固たる意志がなければ命の門が適合しないのです。いいものではないでしょう。
I'm still a little bit confused, but
あなた自分自身を笛の供物にしたのね。
he used himself.
ご明察です。
Oh, because that was the only thing that was worth to anything to him.
君は私が思ってるよりずっとこちら側なのかもしれない。
あなたはこれっぽっちも許せないけど、自分自身を供物にできるならカートリッジだってそうすればいいじゃないの。
出会った頃の最初の私はこれです。我々は精神性を生物ではないと判断されてしまい、使い物になりません。
Oh, okay. So he can't go further. Since he offered up himself. Alright, Reg, let's go. Oh, now he really looks like an inhuman robot. This is very Hollow Knight. And I love it. Those flashes. What the hell is he? I love the animation, holy shit. It's like he's darkness. And we're gonna go and rescue Prushka. So he sucks up electricity, very interesting. Oh, it didn't kill him. What are we about to see? Oh, this is a relic as well. The eyes. Oh, he's trying to capture him. Oh, he actually is able to. Come on, this is your moment. Oh, okay. We're gonna use it another time. Oh, this is a giant hole. And he's back to normal. It looks almost like a corruption. Like something taken over. I mean, obviously something took over, but... Yeah, so where's Bondred and where's Rico? Of course. And Rico's alive. Yeah, and then he doesn't remember anymore. Oh, okay. Programming, personality, souls. Holy shit! Reg, control yourself. Ooh. It's gonna break. Yeah, it's gonna break. Oh, I wonder if this is like, I mean, we're probably not even close to the end, but I wonder if Reg and Rico are gonna be separated at some point. For a longer period. Like, and Rico and Nanachi need to do things, and Reg is actually alone. That's a long distance. Oh, the experiments. They're not gonna do anything to you. Not even a scratch. Ugh. Okay, that is fucking disgusting. No, all of the no. Very interesting how he fights with the... I wonder if Liza and other white whistles are similarly strong. Oh, okay, he feels the effect of the Abyss curse as well. Yeah, he's out of cartridges. I think. The higher he goes, the more he will transform. Though I wonder why the rest doesn't affect him. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of time. And he's gonna change and change, but why is he not as affected by the curse? I guess because it's step by step, right? And he's using the cartridges. Holy shit. The animation just went wild. I mean, it was great before, but... we have these momentum shifts. Amazing. And he's half monster at this point. But it doesn't matter, right? Because it's just the body. He remembers them all, which is very interesting. But he doesn't treat them as humans. Oh no, you didn't. Oh yeah.
次の2000年へ踏み入る準備は整いました。共に夜明けを見届けましょう。
Stepping into the next 2000 years.
愛娘の思いをあんな形にしたいい理由などあってたまるか。リコ、応答してくれ。リコ。プルシュカ。プルシュカ。
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would.
And there we have it again. That connection.
こいつは難しいっすよ、旦那。自我まで持ってかれてますぜ。
And that's supposed to be Prushka?
喜びしか知らぬ者から祈りは生まれません。ないことがあります。君の名はプルシカ。夜明けの花を意味する言葉です。私がパパですよ。ほらプルシカ、いかがですかグエイラ。ずっとこんな調子っすわ。今日は君のお友達を連れてきました。
I'm very interested about what the Umbra hands are, because he said he's thinly related. Child of change. Because he said he's related to Prushka thinly. And he said... and he said he was... an Umbra hand was the father of Prushka, so... What are the Umbra hands? And that was his desire from the beginning. And her little adventures. Oof. It's insane how far he's going and how much trust he has in his methods. And he treats her well, right? Until he doesn't. And an adventurer helmet. It's weird how they all seem to, like the Umbra hands and whatnot, they all seem to dote on her, right? And he's teaching her to stitch bodies together. How wholesome. But yeah, he built that up. That was an experiment for years. That place called the surface. And that might have been her dream, right? And the spark continues. Curiosity. Longing. Friendship. She has that desire, she wants more. Oh, this is hard to watch. There's nothing there, just curiosity and manipulation. And a third shot. Oh, he didn't see that coming. He didn't see that coming. Holy shit! And she picked it up, of course she did. And that's it, her dream, right? And of course that's not the reality, but...
くたばるんじゃねえぞ、ナナチ。手を。落ち着いた。すまない。
Enrico is crying for Prushka.
驚きました。持てる力をすべて出し、基地を聞かせ、それぞれが見事に動いて。
And he just has admiration for it. There's no emotion, there's no hate or pain. And that's the most chilling thing, right?
心置きなく残りの設備もゾアホリックも処分してやるぜ。てめえの憧れはここで終わりだ。ざまあ見ろ。
とんでもございません。自らの道を選び進もうという切なる願いが私のそれに勝ったのです。
And he sees it as a matter of course.
君たちと出会い、ぶつかり合えたことはかけがえのない喜び。
And he speaks of joy, so he feels joy.
ことこそ私の新たな憧れです。
Such a strange being.
クソが差し違える日をずっと夢見てき
And yet there's no satisfaction.
よかった。そうならなくて本当に。どうか君たちの旅路に。
He's a fanatic through and through.
呪いと祝福を。
He stared too deep into the abyss.
うるせえよ。
本当に。君は可愛いですね。
Everything excites him. Everything gives him joy. There's no negative emotion found. Insane. I don't even know how you would call that condition. Or if it would if there's a pendant in the real world.
僕らは
And now the aftermath.
ああ、オイラたちを邪魔する力までは残されてね。リコ。
I wasn't counting on it. Rico feels as much for people as Reg does.
だね。こんなにあったかいのに。
Is she dying? What's strange for me is that Prushka just recovered so much in the beginning. Right after all of that accident and whatnot.
なんだ。プルシカ。マジか。こいつはそう感じるの。不思議。
But what is it? What is it?
うお。腹が熱い。なんだこれは。命を響く石。マジなのか。だでも他人を思いやれるやつなの。それも。
He made it. He actually achieved it. And the moment he achieved it, he died.
リコ、ちょっといいか、それ。私じゃあんまりだろ。複雑な気分だろうけどよ。こいつがリコに託されたのは間違いなくプルシカの石だ。前にしか使えないんだ。お前
Wait.
上だ。
Oh, I just realized this. She has a white whistle. I don't even know what to say to that. You gotta ask yourself what comes first, the white whistle or the abilities, right? Maybe that can, right, enable her.
残り10発ってとこか。
How the fuck?
何？
So does he just fill up based on electricity? I mean, I know we said that before, but so his shots are dependent on electricity. Alright.
畜生めいいのか
I still don't quite get it. What's up with the Max?
それにオイラは隊長の意志を尊重するぜ。私たちの冒険を始めるのよ。
It indeed is.
すらも及ばぬ深淵にその身を捧げ挑む者たちにアビスは全てを与えると言います。生きて死ぬ呪いと祝福
Repeating the words of Liza. Like a dogma, like some kind of religious text.
旅路の果てに何を選び取り終わるのか
And once again we have the what will they choose to meet.
ものだけです。
いよいよだね。ラストダイブ。ああ、いよいよだ。
I'm sure it won't be your last.
戻れない最後の旅の始まりだ。行っちまおうぜ。
And down into the darkness we go. The absolute unknown. And this strange device that the prior civilizations have left us.
奈落の闇がどんなに暗くても大丈夫。とっても明るいから。
You'll brighten it up after all.
リコ、進んで。
I can surely say that as of now I haven't seen or heard of a villain like this villain in a story. And he's not even dead, right? He survived. In a sense. I don't know, write it down in the comments below if his being the way he works, if he actually survives. Explain it to me again, because it's hard to grasp every detail of how this thing works with the consciousness transfer. But I think I got the gist of it. I think Greg actually destroyed the device, right? Or maybe he didn't. I don't know. What a movie. Action, emotion, cruelty. Answers, questions. It seems the Abyss provides all every single time. Oh, White Fox, interesting. Okay, White Fox was involved in this. And Trigger too, like people of Trigger. Cool. And Citrus, of course. Cinema Citrus. Incredible, I don't know. An entire layer. I think I already know what I use for the thumbnails, but wow. I do love this grayscale credit sequence that looks like an old map in the background, right? That's vanishing. We have all these... I don't know what these are. Almost like... I can't quite... Maybe that's flash packets, right? But they're like flower petals, which is... insane. And we do have the dive, right? This is the capsule we saw. And we're going through all these environments. I wonder if that is actually what's there, or if that is just a visual representation of what might be coming. I think I can see many things in there, like possibly Reg with the red cape. Or maybe it's something else. Weird flowery, like fleshy plants. Almost like an acid trip landscape. Looks very primeval, very right bottom of the ocean floor kind of thing. It's a very good theme with the depths and whatnot. In the background, it doesn't just look like a map, it also looks like fog and clouds that we're passing by. Beautiful artistry. But yeah, where does that leave us? Very interesting. Where does it leave us? My thoughts are all scrambled right now, to be honest. There's so much that happened in that time, but also very little, to be honest. But it was very condensed. There's so much to unpack, possibly. Actually, I'm trying to keep my discussion a little bit on the shorter side this time. It's probably not going to be as short as for a normal episode, but I'm going to keep it relatively short for my comparatively, let's say it, for this work of art. But yeah, to be continued in season 2. I can't wait. Honestly, I cannot wait. Guys, what an amazing movie. I couldn't even start to unpack this. I think I need like 10-20 minutes to sit on that, and then we're gonna dive into it and talk about it a little bit, and just think about what it all means. And it was very impressive from an artistic standpoint too. I've been saying it over and over. So many beautiful, interesting landscape, powerful pictures, and fluid animation, even if in the like action sequences and whatnot. It went back and forth between sadness, cruelty, curiosity, right? And that's how it should be, right? It's that stream of emotion that's coming in with a story such as this, that is so mysterious but also heart-wrenching and adorable at times, and heartfelt, and yeah. But yeah, I'll be seeing you in the discussion. If you've seen the picture-in-picture or whatever, then come back to YouTube to listen to my discussion. Maybe, I don't know, get some of your work done, put on some tea, and just relax and listen to it, I guess. But I'll be seeing you there. How the hell am I supposed to start this? Holy shit, guys. How am I supposed to start this? What the fuck? Alright. Let's just dive into it. We start out pretty unspectacularly. We're going down into the 5th layer. Sea of the Undead, this is the goal. Now she's pretty nimble, by the way. I do really love the landscapes, the way it's structured, right? You do have so many layers. You do have, in this special shot here, for example, you do have the layer of the Tome of the Giants all the way in the back with the fly trapping mechanisms. You do have, or prey trapping mechanisms. You do have the pillars over here, which is the immediate background with the smoke and whatnot. And then you have the horizon line, which our characters are placed on. So this is the center point of the shot, and also the center point of the shot in terms of everything around it, which kind of signifies that most of the time I feel like in photography, unless you have a specific model you want to shoot, you definitely, if you want to make a shot interesting, you put the main subject of the shot onto the side, right? There's often like 9 pillars. There's not 9 pillars. There's 9 squares in a screen that mark a specific point in that shot. And what you're trying to do is basically not put it in the center, but put it a little bit to the right or to the left or up or down off the center. Here it's right in the middle of the center. We are the focal point. We are kind of, our point of view is moving with Rico and Reg and Nanachi, but everything else around it is what is supposed to be looked at, I feel. We do have the pillar at the left. We do have the big pillar and crystals on the right. We do have something very much at the forefront here, and something on the left side that kind of frames in the shot. It's very well done, especially without the fireflies, we probably wouldn't have such an amazing looking shot as well. So we do have all these tiny little lights of the fireflies who create the atmosphere, and how they partially, even the light reflections of the fireflies from the crystals, and how the crystals optically break the things that are behind them. There's a lot of detail that goes into a shot like that, and it probably takes a lot of time to draw it. But yeah, the first station we're at, the first kind of our setup, our open, cold open kind of, is the field of flowers, the field of eternal fortunes that 𝐸𝐬𝐩 loved, and we are encountering a new insect on that, but a little bit more on that later. We do see that the umbral hands, I think they're called, like the followers of 𝐸𝐻, or 𝐸𝐻 if you wanna say it like that, are here, and they're doing something, and we're being very cautious, right? This is a standoff, but they're acting very courteous, they're acting very robotic, and obviously down the line it makes sense, and it becomes clear to us why they do not immediately try to capture you, because it's a lot easier to, if you know they're going, Reg and Rico and whatever are going down anyway, to just let them come to you, right? Let them come in, then they don't suspect as much, then they're not as suspicious of you, right? And we're already introduced to the concept that the umbral hands are in and of themselves, that they are acting very robotic, very almost non-caring, right? There's not a lot of emotion going on in them, just a lot of curiosity and joy at discovering new things. But we have the standoff. We get the pickaxe back, actually, and we find out that we've been under surveillance all this time. Yeah, and there we have the bug that's absolutely creepy, laying eggs in the dead hosts, and the larvae eat them out and whatever, and that is absolutely terrifying. Although I don't know if they're actually dead, they might actually be alive during that process, which is kind of mentally slightly preparing us for what's gonna come down the line. But yeah, and we do see that, interestingly enough, the ecosystems kind of change. We do see a species invading a foreign ecosystem where it isn't supposed to be necessarily, and we see the umbral hands doing plague control, more or less, trying to stabilize specific areas, in the process of this destroying the eternal fortune field here. What that symbolizes for us, though, is, interestingly enough, another contrast, and that is that all of this fire and destruction in the face of beauty, if there is a reasonable, like if there is a logical reason for something to be done within the abyss, right? No matter if it's living things or if it has emotional value, the umbral hands and 𝐸𝐻 and its followers in general are gonna do it, right? Destroying something beautiful and something somebody else might have been attached to in order to fulfill your goal, in this case controlling the population and being able to prevent another species from invading into another layer of the abyss. But in other cases as well, right, we do see that transfer to everything else as well. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting beginning, and I was kind of just trying to find the place where we do have the umbral hand mentioning that 𝐸𝐻 isn't here, and that it's kind of hard for him to ascend. Let me just skip to that part. We're gonna skip that. Alright, yeah, the person you're speaking of is currently not present. The method for spanning layers is prone to difficulties. Interesting. The method for spanning layers. So from layer to layer, it's harder to kind of just transfer bondred, I guess. And the umbral hands are just filling out the orders of bondred in this specific instance. But yeah, he welcomes them, says bondred is awaiting them, so they're already forewarned. And we do have a great opening, just going through the layers of the abyss we've been in so far, and zooming into the Sea of the Undead, which is where we're gonna arrive right now. And obviously we do have a lot of interesting shots and vistas. We have that sense of wonder once again. And the Ido front is actually the... Yeah, I mean, this is nice. Give me anxiety because of like all the ice pillars, but whatever. We do have weird fish going on here. And I do love how intricate the world is designed to have all of these little details in there. It really adds to the spice of the story, to just make everything a lot more like you are on that adventure as well. But yeah, we're talking about the Ido front, which... Oh, wait. Yeah, we have that little talk with like, if I'm able to see Mitty again, and Rek is getting very emotional once again, and Nanaji is very kind of embarrassed about it. I do wonder if Nanaji is a girl then, because Rek so far has only responded to girls in that way. We talk about that later. We do have a moment later with the with his erection going on, but I do wonder if she's a girl now, or if there's some other reason why Rek responds like this. But yeah, or why she's embarrassed also. Riko has an amazing sense of optimism throughout all of this. She's like, yeah, we're gonna find all of our answers. Rek comes from down there. There must be a place that's incredible, right? And that's, she, throughout all of the things that she's experienced, pain and suffering and danger and whatnot, she's been steadfast throughout this. So on the one hand, you can attribute that to her incredible resilience on a mental level, but you can also maybe put a little bit of an unnatural thing into that, right? Because if you think about it, she always had that desire to go down there, and she always had the tendency to kind of just use the logical, the plausible reasons for why she is actually interested in the abyss, of course, and why she idolizes all of this, to use it as an excuse, more or less, or as a main reason put at the forefront for her not to possibly think about why she is so obsessed and drawn to the abyss. That is not something that enters her conscious mind. It's very interesting. But yeah, we're making our way there, and we do see the Ido front, which is the next layer, the next seeker camp, basically, right? The next station, and it is controlled by Bondred and his compatriots. They put up base inside of this ancient ritual site that apparently was here long before I'm a dweller of the abyss at this point, okay? Any of us on the surface were even born. And I do wonder if that is the case for every big vista, every big station that some kind of sovereign is residing and watching over at, and has authority here, right? But yeah, we're making our way in there, and we do meet somebody who is somewhat our age, and she's the daughter of Bondred, Prushka. Very interesting, and she's already, we do see that later, we experience that ourselves, she's already slightly modified from the Curse of the Abyss, right? So I do wonder, so far Riko hasn't shown any external signs of being changed. Now obviously the maximum she has experienced was the fourth layer effects, right? Which is not yet the loss of humanity. So we can't say a lot about this yet. She has experienced it a little bit, but in this movie actually later on, the fifth layer, and losing the senses, and then yeah, I mean, I do wonder if there was a little bit that changed about her in that very moment. But we see Prushka in her design and also the way she talks and the things she mentions. She's a little bit older than Reg and Rico. She's probably like 2 or 3 years older, like probably right in the middle of puberty. She's very curious. She's very inquisitive because obviously she hasn't met people her age before. She hasn't met people who look like her. All she had were adults and whatnot, and she's dreaming of all of these adventures she's gonna be on later on. That is something that I think gripped Rico right from the start. We do have that immediate connection. Her bright nature and her enthusiasm swapping over to Rico, and Nanachi's kind of hesitant, of course. And then we have this amazing scene where we have this dread coming in, right? The way the shots are focusing on the heavy footsteps first, and then we go over and we're looking up to the person of interest here, and they're towering, right? And they're an army more or less. And later on we kind of see the sense in why they're displayed this way as a unit, because they actually are, right? The Umbral Hands are just extensions of Bondred himself, vessels basically. And yeah, now obviously she only knows Bondred as a nice being, right? And no wonder, because Bondred seems to be able to at least understand human emotion, and well, understand it on a basic level and be able to use his words and the way he expresses himself, which is very articulative, very, very warm and welcoming as well, and very reasonable and calm, to keep people in a false sense of security, right? To have them have positive experiences, because he made the experience, as we find out later on, that if you create a bond between people, and if you create that sense of love and longing, that this seems to have some effect within the Abyss. And that also kind of connects to my theory that mind, feelings, emotions can affect matter within the Abyss. I'm still holding on to that, and I think that's a very reasonable thing to think at this point, with all the little hints and pieces we've gotten. So yeah, very cool, very interesting, and we do have that long stare that's kind of giving us... his responses are kind, right? His responses are calm, but at the same time they're a little bit out of place and out of touch. It feels very weird for him to clap and say wonderful when he finds out that Mitty died, because while he certainly ascertained that it was a good thing for Nanachi and that Nanachi made the decision knowing it was better for Mitty, he also doesn't seem to keep in mind the fact that she's at the same time very sad about it, and the appropriate human response would be, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, or I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad she could pass on. And that's the little piece he's missing here, and the little piece he's missing later as well. Nanachi being very cautious, of course, and we find out that something about the white whistle, which is very interesting. I want to look that up. White whistles can only be used by their original owner. And I do wonder what trauma is behind every one of these white whistles then. Because Bondred says here, yeah, and we have that. He tries to compliment her flesh lamp. Incredible. Terrible, of course. He's right that she's been set free, but the tone in which he's saying it's grinding her gears, and it makes perfect sense, right? And Reg is really, really, really angry about that, and Nanachi's holding him back though. And here's the problem, right? They can't pass on without Bondred's help. It's activated by a white whistle, and he says here, white whistle can only be used by the original owner. Yeah. This was made out of a relic called Your Worth, the life reverberating stone, right? It's the life reverberating stone, which we find out later is a person, right? A person, a living being. And interestingly enough, Bondred used himself, because obviously that is the only thing that he had any feelings for. That makes perfect sense. I mean, maybe he has feelings of like he adores his test subjects, but he doesn't see him as human, and that is the key point right here, that he doesn't treat them as human, and as such he can just detach himself from any pain they experience and just see it as an experiment. And for a parent child, the timber won't be produced in the life insignia if the life insignia differs. What is very interesting for me here is, as I understand it, it doesn't need to be your own flesh, right? And Bondred's case of using his own flesh was unique. In that case, what flesh did Liza use? That's what I'm asking myself, right? I mean, obviously there can be things like tragedy and you lose someone and you turn that into purpose and find a way to, right? Or somebody sacrifices themselves for you without you wanting that to happen, and then, right? But every white whistle has a whistle. So they have to have sacrificed some kind of living being for it. And most likely a human being. And now we experience another terrible truth about the world. But yeah, Prushka has been sheltered. Prushka has been, very much treated well and adored. And all of them have been kind of doting on her. All the Umbral hands. But she's never been anywhere aside from that, right? She's never been on the surface. She's never been anywhere. We eat the crackers, and obviously Rico once again has that tendency to make everything that is connected to the Abyss into something incredible and wonderful, despite it maybe not being all that tasty or great. The flower of the dawn, and that is insane. I think he wanted to create another life reverberating vessel through Prushka, right? The question is, did he want to do it to give it, or to make it so that Rico gets that, or did he just need it for something else? Oh wait, no. We find that out later. I'm sorry, I'm gonna correct myself. It's actually that the vessel that he has can't be used anymore because his body is now, right? Despite the relic that he has that lets him transfer his consciousness, those bodies are not considered alive. And that kind of confirms my theory, not confirms, but it supports my theory that either what we have here are kind of undeadish human beings, or, which is more likely, we do have bodies that are constructed, right? They're constructed out of flesh, yes, but they're automatons. They're kind of like constructs in a way. And that is a really cool concept that I would like to know more about, but also probably very gruesome truth behind that. Looking at all the experiments that Bondred is doing otherwise. But yeah, Flower of the Dawn. I do wonder what Rico means, or if there is a meaning behind it, and if Liza gave her that name because of that. But I could actually look into that sometime, and if there's a conventional meaning to Rico or not. Yeah. And she doesn't know the surface, yeah, like we said. And we are going to bed. We actually talk a little bit about the helmet and how only a couple of uses are left. Nanachi says that here. She's like, every time you use it, pattern fades a little. The numbers of uses left until something is unusable. Yeah, okay. The amount energy used to move is great, at least mostly insignificant. And I think Reg actually gets that through eating. And the incinerator actually only works through electricity. That makes perfect sense to me. It rewrites the rules of the netherworld. No, not entirely, but yeah, it has very much a big influence on the netherworld. Although, I mean, yeah, no, she's right. It actually negates the immortality of somebody like Mitty, who Reg was able to kill, although we don't know, maybe Mitty comes back at some point, and we're at the point that we're like, oh shit, we didn't completely kill her, there was one cell and it's gonna replicate, and then we come back up and we see that Mitty is still alive, or through some coincidence we actually meet them again. But yeah, very nice. We do have that bonding time, like all of them sleeping like children, with in all kinds of weird positions and whatever. Very, very cute. But Nanachi wanders off and has those visions about her past, about Mitty. Tries to her brain is trying to process all of that, because all of those memories come flooding up again because she's in those places that she spent with Mitty. And Bondred walks up, and they're trying to have a talk. Now, obviously, Bondred is not somebody that I would like to have a talk with. But yeah, I mean, you have to talk with him in some shape or form, despite him only seemingly being human on the outside. Like, he is a true monster of the netherworld. You can't even consider him human anymore. The way he responds to things, right? The only thing he has left is curiosity and joy. I think those are the pieces, the scraps of humanity that are left of him. And I guess that was maybe his main emotion, the main thing that defined him, even as a human. And the further he went into the abyss, the further he modified himself, the further he changed, right, with the consciousness transfer and whatever, the further he went down that road, the more the gem, as Liza says, got refined. And all that's left now is the purest form of what this human personality trait has to offer, right? Curiosity above all else. Everything, even if it's to my own detriment, even if I die doing it, even if I'm destroyed or things, my plans don't work out, all of it is an experiment, and every outcome is something interesting, because whether my theories get proven or disproven, or we just take a step towards or away from a theory of mine, it's gonna be there, and it's gonna be one step closer to shining the light of the abyss, to watching the new dawn of the abyss. Riko wakes up without her companions, and we do have that little thing with the curse, and she tries it again, and she realizes for the first time she encounters the curse. I do think, though, she could have built up some curse resistance to the previous layer that she actually experienced the curse of, but not to this layer, of course, and suddenly it's absolutely disorienting. Of course, imagine suddenly your brain doesn't work anymore, right? You can't see anymore, you can't hear anymore, you don't feel anymore. Your sense of body parts, which is also a sense, right? That is one of the senses that we have, that we are able to know in which relation our arms and our legs and our head are to the ground and to our main, right? To the main part of our body. This sense is completely lost. Imagine that, right? You don't know where you are, what you are, right? You don't even know your shape anymore. I mean, obviously you know it on an intellectual level, but you don't feel it anymore. That must be terrifying. And it's completely disorienting, because every movement of your muscle can happen through emotion, but if you don't feel where your muscle moves, the next move of your muscle can't be a appropriate response to wherever you are within the space you are in. And this is how it happens. Suddenly she gets all these cuts. Why does she get all these cuts? Not because of the curse and it hurts her, but because she actually fell down the stairs. Her tooth evaporates. She still feels that, but she doesn't feel why it's happening and how it's happening. She's grinding her teeth. A very common thing if you're afraid, by the way, grinding your teeth, or if you're stressed. It's a thing that can happen to you. Like a friend of mine actually has that, and it's really not good for them. It's after a while your teeth start hurting, you have your gums start hurting, and obviously you're gonna damage your teeth, because what is one of the few things, obviously there's other things as well, right? You go to the dentist, whatever, but what are one of the few things that can damage or completely destroy teeth? Well, teeth, right? It's the same material. It's like you smashing rocks against each other over and over. At some point, the part of the rock is gonna break. But yeah, this is very well done. Like on an artistic level, her entire body disappears, and Prushka actually saves her and takes care of her. Explains to her molars got damaged, but she's still young enough to have I don't know how you call it in English, baby teeth. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But yeah, we're going on a little exploration tour, right? We're doing our adventure, and Prushka actually teaches us how what was she called? Mania. Mania is able to see the layers of the abyss, and by closing your eyes and shutting yourself off and focusing only on the smell, you can actually slowly follow her. And we do have a little scene later on how we do see that 34. Wait, I'm gonna actually go ahead and bring that up, because I think it's actually, you know what, we get to it when we get to it. But yeah, we suddenly realize, and I think that is the amazing thing, right? He or she, Nanaji remembers these warm feelings she has for Mitty and all those things they did together, and then she's thinking on Rico and Reg and how this is giving her the same feeling, right? The same feeling of the dawn of an adventure, going out there, and the two of them are kind of the adventure that she wanted to go on all this time, and she accepts sacrificing herself this time. I mean, I guess last time she didn't have a chance, but accepts sacrificing herself for Rico and Reg if they're not gonna be hurt. And the interesting, very curious thing is, I have some conditions. Can you please not hurt them? And then Bondred is like, whoops, I made an oopsie. Whoops, sorry. It seems I've done something regrettable. And he actually says that, right? He's like, oh shit, if I knew that, maybe I wouldn't have done it. And I almost believe him. I think that's the insane thing. He's so far removed from humanity that he didn't think of that. That he was like, okay, right, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna somehow find words to persuade Nanachi to forget about Rico and Reg. But yeah, he's not thinking this through. It's almost like a sickness, a curse, right? This curiosity that he's constantly wants to find out new things about that. And he's like, truly marvelous. And then you see how the horror show begins, and that is truly horrible, right? I mean, to be fair, that's still better than a catheter, I would say. But holy shit. The laser, the thing that he can use himself, being used to cut off his limbs, and obviously he's gonna wet himself in this case. Yeah, so much pain, so much suffering. But Nanachi jumps in, and Rico and Prushka also discover this, and she's like, how terrible, what are you doing to them? And she realizes that her father did that. The interesting thing is that the feelings she has for her father are so strong that later on it's overpowering her sense of what is right and what is wrong in this particular case, right? She thinks these things are horrible, but at the same time she's like, yeah, I mean, she's conflicted here, and that's only natural, because if you've been saved like this, right, you were damaged in an accident or in whatever, and you're almost unable to do anything or say anything, and then you're getting healed and raised up and treated well by that being. How can that being be so cruel to other people and hurt them so much? And yeah, we do see that here, the back and forth and whatever. And I guess, yeah, she wants to go on an adventure with them, and I guess in the end she did have her wish, which is so sad, because somehow the Abyss, or Made in Abyss, has this ability to show us wishes and dreams and whatever, and be like, okay, it would be cool if that happened to them, right? That is their desire. And then she takes it, and she and then the Abyss takes it and twists it to the point that it's like, is it even worth it? Is it better this way? It's only consolation, right? In the end, something sad happened, something terrible happened, but at the same time, the only consolation you have is that maybe that wish will come true in a way, even if it's not in the way you suspected it. But yeah, Bondred, Bondred is going to follow them. And Rico, once again, we do see Rico's ingenious ability, right? I mean, obviously, Nanaji's idea about collapsing all of that was definitely also a factor in here. That was a group effort, but Rico has the amazing skill to remember so many things that are in the catalog of the monsters and curiosities in the Abyss. She has so much knowledge of it. She was so excited and passionate about it that she remembered all of these things, no matter how interesting, curious, horrible, or just fun fact, right? She could tell you everything, and that is the cool thing, because in this crucial moment she has the necessary information to make that deduction. She's intelligent enough to also deduce that. And then they form their plan, and she uses the axe, which is really cool. The first time that Rico used the axe, which is amazing. But yeah, Bondred gets kind of ambushed with his Umbra hands, which is cool because the Umbra hands, as many as they might be, we find out later there's probably thousands of them, maybe hundreds, but so many that they can't all be killed. But at least the main ones have been dead at this point, right? But enough survived here. We do have our short moment of reprieve, and but we find out Bondred isn't as easy to kill, and he shouldn't be, to be honest, right? He's a white whistle. You do need that sense of indestructibility, because these white whistles, they're the apex of what we know within the Abyss. They're the absolute pillar of everything that happens in the Abyss, and in terms of power scaling, obviously they would be the most resilient, the most resistant, the most clever, the most passionate and headstrong ones out there in all kinds of different ways. We did see that Ozen has her own peculiarities with her sadism and her viciousness, right? And all of these were real. Like I think I said in the past that what she did towards Rico was a lie. I didn't mean that all of it was a lie. What I meant was mainly, what was a lie is that the things she said to her with the grave and whatever and whatnot, and her mother being dead. And she also, what she said was that, or what in my opinion was more or less deceiving Rico and Reg, was that she was serious about killing them, right? She wasn't serious about that. I'm sure there's a lot of the feelings and what she was spouting, like, I hate, I don't know what she was spouting. She was spouting things about hating things about Rico or Reg or whatever. I'm sure some of these parts were actually true, in some shape or form, but it wasn't as extreme as she made it out to be. And then we have Liza with her unwavering strength and curiosity and longing and obsession with the Abyss. Although I think all of them have this obsession with the Abyss. It's just a different aspect of it. Liza represents, in my opinion, a lot of warmth and positivity, but almost mania, right? If you think about it, like a person that is, as is Rico as well, very much more concerned with finding out new things, with discovering new things and conquering new challenges down in the Abyss than they are with their own well-being, because their own well-being is secondary to that. Although Liza obviously was clever enough all this time to survive and make it to White Whistle territory. But we see that in Bondred as well now. Bondred is very obsessed with science and experiments. He wants to find out as much as he can about the Abyss, and he would go over so many bodies, over so many lives would he trample, even his own, because at this point he achieved replaceability, he achieved immortality in a way, as to he can always replace himself, his body at least. And he takes that suffering, he takes that willingly and gladly for the joy of discovering something new and making a new experience, which is absolute madness. But you see that a lot in fanaticism, right? People become so obsessed with certain thoughts, so obsessed with things, that they would take a lot of the negative consequences on themselves and on others, making the decision for others without even thinking about having empathy, right? And Bondred doesn't have empathy. He understands emotions on an intellectual level, but he doesn't have the empathy to step back and say, I don't want to do this because it hurts that person. And yeah, we do have our second showdown with Bondred, and he's very calm. He says, come on, Marvelous, I applaud you. He is a very, very interesting antagonist here. And we have clever tricks from all kinds of places. Rico being very smart once again, infecting him with maggots and whatnot. And in the end, they do achieve what they want to achieve, getting Bondred all the way down through the sea of the undead, and then pulling him back up to show him a little bit of his own medicine and showing, look how terrible that is. But all he has to say to that is marvelous. In all his pain and suffering, he's still like, this is amazing. And that is the terrifying thing about that, right? How do you deal with a person that does not only not care for you, but also doesn't care about themselves in a way, right? Of course they care about their survival in the sense of that they made themselves immortal, but everything aside from that, pain, suffering, they all take it into account, and they're like, amazing, new experience. That is terrifying in a whole new way, and it kind of perfectly fits the Lovecraftian theme of, right? 𝐏𝐢𝐏𝐿 and fanaticism and people getting driven crazy by otherworldly things or beings or objects. It's perfect because it deepens that mystery of the abyss. What is the abyss? If it's a living thing, does it drive people mad if they're too far down? If they spend too much time down there? If they stare in the abyss too long, will the abyss stare back, and will they be taken over? But yeah. And we create love here, or love, suffering from love. Let me say it like that. First the sadness and the grief about Bondred, her father dying, and then the relief about him being alive after all. Being indestructible, being this perfect being. As long as I have your love, I am immortal. And he says that well knowing that this love is gonna create the life reverberating vessel that he needs to go further down, because he wants so much. He wants this so much, right? He wants it. More like Gollum with the ring, like it drives him mad that he can't go down there by himself. That he met this roadblock, but finally, after not decades, but 1 decade and a few years of investing time and love and energy into creating this perfect sheltered atmosphere for a child, right? Raising her up well, creating love, creating a bond that is absolutely one-sided, because for him, she's just an adorable little pet, right? Like a dog that we have, not even, I mean, yes, like a dog or a cat that we have, but, right? But even we wouldn't do that to our pets. But it's necessary, right? To fulfill his goals, to to get to the point where he wants to get to. And for that he'll do anything, and that's what he'll do. But yeah. Amazing artistry, the gruesomeness of the curse, all of that. It's incredible how this is displayed. The way the hand, right? We do have that kind of almost like a god giving the hand to humans after having created them, after having raised them, right? And that is how he sees himself, right? He's playing God. He has a god complex in a way. although he doesn't care that much about his own existence, even if it doesn't go on, he's like, okay, you going on, that shall be my new purpose. Which is very resilient and interested, that he finds new purpose even beyond himself. But that is how far his obsession goes. Everything for the abyss. Anything that, like, the only thing that's missing is that he starts chanting to the abyss, right? He's not a religious zealot. He's a scientific zealot, in a way. He's a researcher through and through, but the worst kind. Yeah, and all she has is love for him. I mean, obviously she's probably pumped full of drugs and whatever, but all she has is love for him. And that's what he wanted to create, and that's what he achieved to create. But here, yeah, we do have that scene where they talk about their dreams and their plans. And then Rico realizes, you know, it used to be that I wanted to be like my mother, right, and meet my mother. But even if I'm understanding that she might not be there, I'm all the more excited. It's the curiosity that drives me. It's more than that, right? It's Reg and all the things I already went through, right? It might be, to a degree, it might also be sunk cost fallacy, but the main thing that's driving here is her own motivation. And if that motivation comes... The question is if that motivation comes from her as a personality and the way she grew up and whatever, or if it comes from her genetics, right? In the case of Liza, who was also very passionate about this, or if it comes from her being revived within the curse-repelling vessel within the abyss, and all things that are in there are drawn to it, right? And I do think it's a bit of all of that. I do think that it's a bit of all of that. You can't, it's like the chicken or the egg question, right? You can't say what came first, but you can say that there's something fascinating and trance-inducing almost about the abyss that draws all of these people towards it. And for Rico especially, there's a multi-layered factor driving her down there. Her mom, Reg, her own curiosity and her passion for the abyss, she engulfed herself in all that. You will notice that whenever you actually, even if you don't like a thing, but you have to make yourself familiar with it. Like, I had that moment in some facets of psychology where I was like, oh, this is actually kind of boring or dry. I don't find that all that interesting. And then I actually had to busy myself with it because exams and actually having to write essays and whatnot. And as I was busying myself with it, suddenly I developed intrinsic motivation. I developed curiosity for it, because the deeper I dove, the more interesting it got. And that's the fascinating thing, really, right? That intrinsic motivation can happen through that. We start with extrinsic motivation, but it's not what pushes us on, right? What gets us into flow, what gets us to do all of these things. It's and I think a lot of that is intrinsic for Rico, because she was not only was she surrounded by the abyss and surrounded by people who were striving for all of this, right? The cave raider life, the adventurer life. She also drowned herself into the abyss. Even before she was inside the abyss, she drowned herself in the knowledge about the abyss, in all the little crooks and details and relics and whatever, and dreamed of it constantly. Now, if part of that was her unnatural birth, might be, yes, but I think a big part of that was just her being engrossed in this world. And what makes her stand out from the other children, of course, and from the other cave raiders, is her legacy, her heritage, like her legacy with her heritage with her mother, as well as her immense curiosity and intelligence, as well as her unnatural origins that drive her forward. Everything in this world seems to be designed to lead her down into the abyss, and I'm becoming more and more curious as we move on what is at the bottom of the abyss. And what, I mean, obviously that can also be a thing that is detrimental to a story, right? Because if you don't deliver on that, if you build up so much energy and emotion and curiosity in people and fascination, because this is a world that I can very well see that people are very fascinated by, that they lose themselves in, like, right? The theory iceberg is probably ginormous. And building all of that up and then disappointing your viewers must be really hard. And I don't think it's gonna happen necessarily, but we do know that endings are always hard to pull off. We do see that even on recent examples like Attack on Titan. But yeah, I can't wait to see what's down there and how we can pierce that apart on a level. And we talk about the things. She doesn't know what a penis is. She fucking gives her a drawing even, and she says, "Oh, this is a papa bone." I know, Paul, okay. I do sincerely hope she got that through education. But, you know, it's not too unusual. I think Americans are actually rather prude when it comes to customs. But I do think, like, a lot of Europeans, for example, and also in other countries, children have seen their parents naked before, right? So this is a natural, normal thing for a lot of people out there. But for some, it's not, because other cultural customs, which is interesting. But she grew up very sheltered, and obviously this is her term for it. But yeah, very interesting that she mentions that whenever he touches Nanachi, that it's the same effect happening. So we do have another hint here. Is Nanachi male or female? The eternal question. And I do think it's very possible that she's female. At this point, like, I was swinging back and forth, but at this point I'm arriving at female, actually. Like, the hints are just bigger for that. I've never seen Reg interested in that or in Shiggy or whatever when they were back up, so yeah. And they bond. They bond over that. She's like, I just want to keep adventuring with them. This is my goal for now, right? There's not I mean, obviously she still has her goals down there and her curiosities and whatever. And this is what drives her forward. But what she really revels in seems to be being on that adventure, despite all the dangers, despite all the dread, despite all the terrible things happening and all the pain she's suffered so far. It's driving her on, and that makes her kind of really a lot like her mother, aside from her mother actually having more capability, of course, at the point she was diving this low. But yeah. Very emotional scenes, all of those. We can't elaborate on all of them. We also don't want to elaborate on all of them, because for me that just says that, we can elaborate on one or two of them, but for me that just, it's too much to constantly repeat them. Obviously gonna talk about them when they pop up here. So she says the Soaholic is about the size of a large room and shaped kind of like a butt. Okay, interesting. White Vessel is supposed to only have up to grade 1 relics, and this is an obeyed or something like that. But when you mix in or increase your consciousness, the person using it ends up going insane. When you mix in or increase your consciousness. Okay, let's take it from the start. Okay, Rico, educate me. Soaholic. Interesting. I wonder where the word comes from. Holic is obviously somewhat of an addiction. The soul slave machine. It's a relic that copies your consciousness into someone else or makes more of yourself. Okay, so it can make more of yourself, and Bondred used that to just make a lot of copies of himself. Or maybe the theory is still like, what is it? And then, right? Or he actually used human test subjects to replace himself with it, right? And then it's all himself. And that's why they're so weird, right? Because there's no consciousness in there. They just work based on orders and whatever, and he's the consciousness, he's the main. It's almost like a hive mind. Not entirely, because they can't communicate that way, but almost like a hive mind. But when you mix in or increase your consciousness, that person using it ends up going insane. When you mix in or increase your consciousness. So what she says is that if you would use it on a real human, that's how I understand it, then you would go insane. But maybe he built himself some constructs, like I said. All right, and it went missing at some point, so yeah, he swiped it. Oh, he is a scoundrel indeed. Yeah, the mask is a symbol, of course. Yeah, okay, and then what was that about Rex energy systems? Let me see. Rex energy source is electricity. When he woke up in Earth, it was electricity. But, you know, that might have been what caused Rex to lose his memory. So what they want to do is charge all of that electricity through him. And he says, I need to charge up my incinerator, and I need to do that, right? I understood that the right way, I guess. But yeah, cool thing. Reg is actually going for the whirlpool. And he's, yeah, the only one who can properly get down there anyway. So it makes perfect sense. So he infiltrates while they are just moving in normally. I wonder what's, I didn't quite get why this is working out, right? Because obviously they're right behind one of those hands. Maybe they were just saying they're giving themselves up. And that's how it went. Okay, I guess that makes perfect sense for me. Yeah, and he can't use his white whistle, and that is why he wants to do all of this bullshit. And we have Rex memories or another consciousness inside of Reg awaken. Maybe Reg was subject to the Soulholic, or maybe it's just the way he's constructed. Or maybe he does have a case of split personality disorder stemming from intense trauma, where a part of him, his memories and all of that happened there, is being locked away while the other part. But he said later on that there was a lot of consciousnesses, so very interesting. He might have been connected to the Soulholic in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, Rico is following up and just trying to find Prushka, which is very sad because we do have all these cartridges which are filled with the inside of humans. Any sensory organ that might hamper the curse gets chopped off. Great, you just put the flesh in there, keep them alive, and then you can use them as a defense mechanism against the effect of the curse. That is fucking horrible. Yeah, and yeah, Nanaji was involved in this. Too scared to resist. Too obedient at this time, but Mitty broke that, and yeah. He says, I was fully under the impression you had come to create the raw materials for your worth. The life reverberating stone. If I recall, that's what the white whistles are carved out of. But she didn't teach Rico that bad, terrible truth. The raw material is a human being. And then we find it out. Rico is like, shit, if I can move, the only way I can move on is by sacrificing myself for someone else. So how do I do that? Because she doesn't find it in her heart, of course. As somebody who grew up with warmth, who grew up with passion and empathy for others. And obviously I do think one argument to be made for Prushka is Prushka didn't judge her father so harshly, maybe because she also didn't grow up with a lot of other people around, so having empathy for others only extended so far. It extended far enough, right? Because there was this bond of like, there's people who are similar than me, who are similar age than me and whatever. But at the same time, it didn't extend far enough because she didn't have that much experience, and she trusted her father. She was like, okay, if this is what he did, might have been the right thing. At least this is the part of her that wanted to convince herself and that her father is good, and still to care about her father, because her father obviously is her shining figure in her life. Yeah, and this was a former ritual site. To challenge the sixth land beyond from which one can never return, it is to surrender oneself to the netherworld. Yeah, okay. A ritual. And not everything makes a suitable offering. Without a firm resolve to sacrifice everything for the intended user. The life insignia won't be compatible. So what is it that Liza used? I mean, I don't think it's Rico that she used, right? She was a white whistle before she... Or was she? Or was she? That's the question, right? I think she was a white whistle before she had Rico. So the question is, what did she sacrifice? We don't know, but I'm sure as hell gonna find out at some point. And he realizes somebody of a similar intellect. But she's not a kindred spirit because she doesn't have your cruelty, or rather, she doesn't have your lack of empathy. She does have empathy, she loves people. And she, yeah, she cares for them. And this is Reg in his whatever form. Honestly, for all we know, this is season one of Made in Abyss. When was Hollow Knight made? Which one inspired which? Because this looks pretty much like, right, like the vessel. This looks pretty much like the thing that you see in Hollow Knight, and it's pretty fucking amazing. I already liked it in Hollow Knight a lot. Like this condensed darkness. It's almost like there's some part of the abyss that's part of him. Or like a spirit possesses him, like a vengeful spirit. But yeah, this enables him to actually fight Bondred, and Bondred is not that surprised to see what he's capable of. Alright, I need to run this back. I wanted to see that very short frame of the thing that was inside of him. And the way that the head tilts, right? This unnatural tilt, it kind of makes it all a little bit creepy and dark and but in an amazing way in this case, because we know it's Reg and we know the main target is Bondred and not we. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I don't even need to hear it to actually say it, to be honest. Gotten all slippery, he says. Yeah, this one. I'm very interested what this is, because it doesn't look like Reg. It doesn't look like Reg. It looks like white hair. So there is more of Reg's kind, and maybe they're inside of him in spirit form, or there's something else to it, right? But yeah, we do see that for a short period, and the consciousness awakens and it ravages and rages. And we do have that amazing fight scene. This line art is beautiful. And the shots where we just hold upon like the clash, and so much amazing art. The lasers, and he repels it with the darkness, right? That's the symbolism in that, right? The light is trying to push away the darkness, and the darkness remains resistant to it. Interestingly enough, while for us viewers, right, in this particular instance, the darkness is Bondred and the light is Reg. He awakens, and he awakens too, and that is creepy. All of these eyes, and now we see the true nature of Bondred. Still don't know what that is, but it looks a lot like what Ozen had with her curses that she stitched into her skin deep, or deeper than the skin. And he's so changed in many instances. But yeah, Rico has found the Soholic, and Reg is gonna explode everything. But Nanachi actually manages to pull through to him, to actually get him out of his stupor. And he can, last minute, he can actually control it and condense it into something. But yeah, and then it doesn't possess him anymore. And we come back to this scene where Bondred is, well, first of all, we have that little funny one where, once again, it's kind of, yeah, interesting, and I guess we'll have to keep an eye on that to have more signs in which gender category Nanachi actually falls. But yeah, Bondred is alive, and he manages to get Reg down into the pit where he wants to fight him. Interestingly enough, he remembers all the names, which makes sense, right? They're trophies to him, almost like a serial killer, right? Gathering trophies from his victims, but also pets, right? Adorable little pets. He doesn't think about what danger or suffering they feel or whatever there's inside of them. They're just pets to him, and that is gruesome. Yeah, again, amazing animation, the swirling, the creativity using the space, right, back and forth. It's very exciting. I don't know what kind of black goo he's using here, if that is the cartridges too. I think that's not. The cartridges are just, right, they're just keeping him within that atmosphere and protecting him from the thing of the curse. I don't know what black stuff he's using there, some kind of technology. Maybe one of you guys knows, if it's not explained later down the line. But yeah, a very, very tense fight, where he actually pushes himself to the limit with those cartridges, and he's just going for it. Modification after modifications, right? Blessings, as he says. But yeah, he's going all the way down, and it's amazing. Like especially here, right? The animation goes crazy. We have those momentum shifts. Everything is slower suddenly, and then it's yeah, it breaks down, and we have that still frame. It is a spectacle for sure, and he is looking fucking intimidating and cool and whatever, but at what price? At what price? But he remembers them all. Interesting. Yeah. And then we head to the conclusion, I guess. We have that. I don't want to spend too long on this. We talked about it. He's raising her up to be loved. He's raising her up to be doted on, to be yeah, and she's making mistakes, but she's learning from them, and she has such a bright personality. It's always coming back. So interesting, so incredibly interesting. And we show that because this is the moment where all her adventures end, or do they? They don't, of course. But I mean, she's also doing doctor stuff. I don't know. I mean, he's praising her for it, and he's probably hasn't let her stitch up live patients or whatever. But yeah, amazing vistas, and she had a nice childhood, right? She had an amazing childhood, but he's a sociopath, kind of. He doesn't have emotion. Well, he has emotions. He doesn't have empathy. And what little empathy he has, he throws away for the purpose of his longing, his obsession. And then we have the moment, surprise, surprise, he can do it with the legs, and Rico actually had his other arm, and that is what he didn't foresee. And that's kind of what Prushka wanted to be, right? An adventurer with them, and Bondred behind, supporting them. Her fantasy, which is far from reality, but a very, very beautiful dream. Obviously not reality. Because something so beautiful can't be real, right? Well, it can be, but there's always somewhat of a price. And then we find out Bondred actually doesn't care. He's very glad. May your journey overflow with curses and blessings. Like a fanatic, he says, your journey now is my journey. And he tries to, even in his death, he tries to put his stamp on it, right? He tries to take control over their journey. In a way. And we cry for Prushka. And we find out that there's something inside, right? Born of love through the curse of the abyss. Life reverberating vessel. A white whistle. Enrico's white whistle. Which is, on the one hand, absolutely incredible, and on the other hand, it's absolutely horrible, right? If you know how it came to it. And I'm sure Rico, as thankful as she is And as much of a comfort as it is for Riko to take Prushka more or less metaphorically, maybe even really, with her on her journey, it is equally horrifying and sad for her to know what it cost to get there. And with that bittersweet goodbye, and with our gaze going back to the new 𝐸𝐸𝐸, I guess, of which there can't be more to make, but there still are more than enough in the world. We do go on our journey with our squad leader Riko and make our way through this sea of the undead towards the capital of the unreturned, because from beyond the 6th layer there is no return. Again, the amazing sequence of diving down through the sea of the undead with all those the little beings and the structures and the sea life, basically, which is really, really amazing. And some of that could be flesh or it could be a flower, which is very purposefully chosen, I guess, as a motive here. But yeah, that's it. That was Made in Abyss, Dawn of the Deep Soul, and it was, I guess, it was so much more than I actually imagined it to be. And our discussion is 1 hour and 12 minutes now, but thankfully, I think that's still pretty okay in comparison to what we watched just now, which was in 1 hour and 44 minutes movie. I hope it's not too long for you. Maybe you can watch it or listen to it on multiple days, on different occasions or whatever. But yeah, a very impressive movie that's just awakening my curiosity even more. I want to go deeper, no matter the cost. Yeah, I mean, it was a really cool experience. As if you do like my discussions, leave me a like on this video. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel, please, because a lot of you are not subscribed. I know you hear that from every YouTuber, but that's how it is. Even if you just subscribe now and otherwise you're just watching without being logged in or whatever, I do that too. So I would really appreciate that. It would really help me a lot. If you're interested in more content or want to have that content earlier, I do have a Patreon. Link is in the description down below. My Patreon at the moment has early access, 1 week early access for Made in Abyss, except for this week, I think, because I'm actually taking this chance and taking a pause for 1 week. For once, I have to do finals soon, so there's that. But also, I do wanna let all of that experience kind of sit and process for me, so I can actually, so I can actually talk about it a little bit more. And also, I do think this was a long movie. We had episode 13 and 14 as well as a very long episode to watch. So I'm taking this week off, the next week. And after that, it's going to be season 2. And then we're going to vote soon, hopefully. On my Patreon, you can actually, once I set the vote up, it's probably going to be I think it's going to be January still. Yeah, I think it's going to be January, mid-January, or late January. We're going to vote on what series is going to make it into the slot after Made in Abyss, which is also interesting. If you have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments below or on my YouTube community page. You can also join my Discord and write me personally, say, hey, we have we do have a recommendations channel, which is really cool. Yeah, that's the most direct line to me, actually. Or write me on the Discord. That's fine as well. Anyway, I'll be seeing you in the next video. I hope you enjoy everything. And yeah, goodbye. What I do is I will check this for a second. The data backup. We go to recordings. Wrong. Made in Abyss 13. All of it is done. Okay, cool. So we take 13, we eliminate it here because I do actually want this to work well.